Welcome to Just Minded My Business Media LLC, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, subscribe to Just Minded My Business on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Share Just Minded My Business with your family, friends, and colleagues. Engage with us by leaving a review or comment. Your support keeps this podcast going and growing. Visit our website at jmmbmediallc.com to learn how we can support you in getting more visibility on your products and services. So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Well, I am so honored to have on the Just Minding My Business platform, Dr. James Cima, who is an author and a renowned doctor of chiropractic. Dr. Cima's path began following a back injury at 15, which led him to experience the benefits of chiropractic care after he graduated from Cornell University. Inspired by his own positive results and Thomas Edison's vision for future medicine, Dr. Cima pursued and completed his Doctor of Chiropractic degree with honors from New York Chiropractic College. In his 40 years of practice, Dr. Cima has dedicated himself to promoting health and wellness according to Edison's principles, developing comprehensive programs that align with this philosophy. His extensive postgraduate education covers a wide range of healthcare fields, including nutrition. Wow. Welcome. I am honored to have you here.
Thank you, Ida.
Yes. So everybody knows what Edison's principles are. Let's lay those out really quickly so that way those who may not know will know.
Well, when I saw that quote, it was just as I was graduating. It said the doctor of the future would prescribe no medication, but would assist patients in diet, care of the human frame, and the cause and prevention of disease. And I said, that's what I want to be. This is exactly, he couldn't have phrased it any better. And the question then there was no book. There was just this quote, which made a lot of sense, but there was no courses. So I dedicated my life to those principles, and I live by those principles, and I teach those principles to my patients. And I just felt so impelled to do this. That's why I started writing books on health and wellness and nutrition, and started educating not only lay people, but a lot of doctors, physicians. I teach now for the Florida Chiropractic Physicians Association on a whole wide different range of topics, from functional medicine to AIDS, to nutrition, and all different kinds of chiropractic treatments.
Yes. And like you, I'm a very holistic person. Pharmaceutical meds are not my favorites.
No.
When something happens, I quickly look for something more holistic. And most of the time, what I normally find is that it not only works on the problems that I'm looking to cure, it also works on other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best part.
Yes. And it's no side effects.
No,
And I love it.
really. Yeah.
I love it. So what constitutes excellent health?
Well, the reality is that when you look at the way doctors treat patients today, for example, I'll give you a quote that I heard a long time ago. If the only tool you have is a hammer, the world looks like a nail. So if you go to a doctor that basically just prescribes medication, he thinks everything is chemical. Same thing with the chiropractic physician. He'll say, well, everything is physical. And same thing with the psychiatrist. He says, oh, everything is mental, emotional. But all three of them are correct, because each aspect of that, we call it the triangle of health, indicates exactly what constitutes health. And there's three sides to it. There's a chemical side, and body of science called chemistry that backs that up. There's a physical side to health, and there's a body of science called physics that basically backs that up. And then there's the whole mental emotional side to man or woman that, you have psychologists and psychiatrists backing that up. So if you look at every patient, if you look at every person, I should say, and your overall health, I want everybody to even look at this from their perspective. You have to look at your health or your life and say, well, am I doing proper? Am I doing well with my nutrition? Or am I doing well with my nutrition, but my physical is not really doing well because I don't exercise? Or in today's world, as you know, stress is like
Mm.
it's traumatizing really to everybody's health out there today. I see that as I've been teaching stress classes for over 40 years. And back then, stress was just a buzzword. But today it's a real life thing. It's killing people. They
Mhm.
just don't know it. I saw an interesting statistic one day, and because they're talking about like heart disease and cholesterol and all this, and they said, do you know when most people have a heart attack or die? What day of the week or what time of the week or whatever it is? It's basically Monday morning between 4 and 10 when people are just starting the work week. Some people would rather die than go to work because that's how stressful work is.
Yes, and
Making a joke out of it, but it's not.
yes.
It has that kind of influence. And I had the fortunate um, time when I worked with this doctor who was treating a lot of cancer patients. This was decades ago. And every one of the patients I was treating had really, they were angry, they were negative. And so I said to the doctor, I said, is this what, because, this is, they have cancer and they feel this way? And he turned around, he looked at me, he goes, no, that's what probably caused their cancer.
Mm.
And I was like, the first time I really thought about it, I said, it's like, if you're in a mental emotional state of anger and fear and depression, it does have a toll on your body.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so true because the people don't realize that the mind, body, and your spiritual being, it's all connected.
absolutely.
It is all
Absolutely.
connected. And I mean, early in my life, I didn't know that. I didn't understand it. I didn't live in a family that promoted that kind of wellness. It was mostly stress, day to day grind, so to speak. It
Yeah,
wasn't before I became older and started studying myself and found that all of these things are connected and I control how I respond
that's
to
it.
situations.
That's the perfect way. That's it. It's not what happens to you, it's what happens in you.
Hmm. Wow.
That's what you have to look at.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And just to touch on the obesity um, status in this country, it is like
out,
unbelievable,
out of control.
out of
Yeah.
control, to say the least. So you make a statement, United States of obesity.
It is. We're the number one obese nation in the world.
And I believe it.
And I'll tell you how it happened. It's not a lot of it isn't the fault of the general population, because back in the early 80s, they changed the food pyramid. And they started to put, they said, look, you got to stay away from fats because cholesterol is killing people.
Mhm.
And so they started to literally eliminate fat from people's diets. And when you eliminate fat, you eliminate protein because God intended to have, fat with protein because fat's the mortar, protein's the bricks. And that's how our body's built, with fat and protein. And so they start to say you can't have fat in your diet. They came out with all kinds of fat-free things. And there was fat-free fat-free, cookies, fat-free ice cream. Even my kids, when they were young, my wife would buy it. Kids would eat ice cream and cookies and cake like it was no tomorrow. They didn't touch that stuff. They knew better. So I
Right.
told my wife, I said, listen, stop buying that. Just buy natural, regular foods with regular fat, good fats, healthy fats,
Mhm.
and we'll be fine. Everything will be good. So back in the late 80s, I have a book I wrote back then. It was How to Eat More, Lose Weight, and Never Diet Again. And the reason why I wrote that book, because I started to see the obesity situation back then. because people were changing. They were eating more carbohydrates, which leads to diabetes, which type 2 diabetes is really big time today in this world. And that's what's causing a lot of the obesity. And they're calling Alzheimer's disease like the third type of they call it type 3 of diabetes now, because it leads
Wow.
to brain dysfunction as time goes on. But there's more to it than what meets the eye. But I saw this coming. And I didn't realize how bad it was getting because, back then I said, okay, because I grew up in the 50s and the 60s and everybody was thin. We
Mhm.
ate, we ran around like, crazy people. We did what we ever had to do every day. And I never gained weight. I mean, my father was an ice cream man. I was eating ice cream all the time. I didn't gain weight. So it was kind of like, growing up in a society with good, healthy foods and then kind of watching everything change over the decades. I was an agricultural major too, as pre-vet. And I was learning about, learning about nutrition before I was like in pre-veterinary school because they would they were taking care of the animals from a nutritional perspective better than they were taking care of human beings. Because I would just watch this and no, you have to do this, you have to do that, because when we bring these animals to slaughter, we have to have every one of them alive and every one of them as big and as heavy as they can be, so we'll make some money. And so they really watched the nutrition of the animals more than they were watching the nutrition of human beings.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
back then, we were already in a deficit vitamin and mineral wise in our foods. I think we had depleted this back in the late 60s, probably between the 40s and the 60s, about 30–40% of the nutrients that were found back in the 40s were not there in the 60s and 70s.
And I can believe that because I'm one of those people when I shop, I read the ingredients
You have to.
and I'm looking at the nutritional value and it's like a trace.
Exactly. Well, you can you'll get crazy trying to like go through things as far as looking at labels and everything. But the
Yeah.
clean you eat, it's kind of like it's the main staples in anyone's diet is going to be good protein, and it's got to be from beef or veal or fish and fowl,
Hmm.
also from eggs and dairy and nuts and seeds and your vegetables. But the right combinations are really important. And what I've seen, because I watch a lot of people talk about doing this and doing that. There are so many people out there lying to the general public to sell their vitamin or their mineral or their like weight loss gimmick. And they're all gimmicks. There's nothing that really makes any kind of sense. And that's the other reason why we have a weight problem, because of all these crazy cockamamie diets over the years and decades, all these insane exercise programs that they literally, what they do is, yeah, when people lose weight, they lose weight. But I'm not interested in what they lost. I mean, how much they lost. I'm interested in what they lost. And when people lose
Yes.
20, 30, 40 pounds quick, they're losing bone, muscle. They think, oh, I'm doing better. Yes, you're doing better, but you're losing really important, important parts of the body. Your bones and your muscles and your organs are important, and they're going to start breaking down. And that's another reason why we're starting to see a lot of people with a lot of infirmities, even though what they say, well, actually, when that this year was the first year that in I don't know how many decades that our life expectancy went down. I don't know if you're
Wow.
aware of it.
Oh, I
So
wasn't.
yeah, so I mean, I kind of I felt it because I've been practicing for decades, but I just watched since the whole uh, COVID situation happened that overall health of the people just went down from emotional stress, like we just talked about,
Mhm.
physical duress, biochemical duress, like you had people had to stay home, they had to just eat there, they couldn't go anywhere, they couldn't visit people. It was traumatizing to the general public.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And you know what, Ida? Nobody talked about like in drips and drabs that like these are the things you can do to take care of your health and your immune system.
Hmm.
And every night they should have had at least somebody on TV for a half hour to an hour and say, okay, nutritionally, these are basic things that you should do
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally. If you can't, now you can't deal with, you can't see your family, your friends. You have to be able to deal effectively with that. And the same thing physically. People couldn't go to gyms, they couldn't work out, they couldn't even leave their house. So you had to develop ways to kind of like deal and cope with that.
Yes. And then
But
you
they
have to
taught
be
people.
equipped to do that. So you would
Exactly.
have to have some kind of mindset already in place for
Exactly.
dealing with situations,
Yeah.
period. I saw one some time ago. It is important that we teach our children how to be uncomfortable because you
I agree with that.
because you
I
just
agree.
never know.
Yeah.
You never know when you're in a situation that's not optimal.
Yep.
And that's an important thing. So let's talk about the health thing in terms of you say that the we rank 37 among nations in the health and pay twice as much. And I believe that for
Yes.
sure.
Yep.
I believe that. And it's terrible. I was on TikTok one day, and there was a Canadian talking about how they just walk into the hospital, and the only thing they give is their name and their address, and that's it. And I think I was reading somewhere else where healthcare is free in a lot of the other third
Yeah.
world
Oh, it
countries.
is. Yeah.
So why is healthcare a business in the United States?
That's it's big business. It's huge business, and that's not going to stop because um, when I was in school back in 1973, long time ago, and there was a book that came out. It was called Pills, Profits, and Politics. I think it was written by
Mm,
two MDs. And back then they were already talking about like the politics involved with with the drug companies and everything else and the amount of money that they would be making. This is back then. It's gotten horrible since then. And
mhm.
what they do now is they just basically everything's run between the insurance carriers. Like, for example, they say it's called health insurance. That's oxymoron. It's sickness and disease insurance.
Yes,
They're
it
not
is.
interested in taking care of your health. That's what people don't understand. Medical doctors have a certain function. They want to treat sickness and disease. And if that's the way you want to be treated, and sometimes you have to be treated that way, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
That's the way you want to go. That's fine. But then they don't treat health and wellness. And
Right.
insurance companies don't pay for it. Your insurance company's not going to pay for your supplements, not going to pay for your gym. Certainly, I'm a doctor of functional medicine more than anything else. They don't pay for any of that. They even say it. So if it's got to do with wellness, it's on you. You don't have to. You're not covered for that.
And that's a fact. You got
Yeah,
that right.
yeah.
They don't
And
cover any of it.
they cover zero, and what happens is patients come in and they think that, well, it's covered. It's really not, because they don't cover health and wellness. They cover, let's say, just sickness and disease, like we said. I mean, they would be willing. Like, I'll give you an example. This is how messed up the system is. Either if I walked into Palm Beach Gardens Hospital, which is 2 blocks away from where I practice, and I went to the CEO in the hospital and said, look, you have 10 people ready for low back surgery. I can almost guarantee you, CEO, that I can get 50% of those people well without the surgery. And instead of them paying, $2 million for all that surgical stuff that they're going to get, the 5 people,
Mhm.
I'll do it for 50,000. You know what you tell me? Let me get the police over here to escort you to the door because we want you out of here. It's like, no, I'm going to make $2 million. I don't really care what happens to them afterwards. This is the way we look at, the system of healthcare. You're getting the
Mhm.
surgery, it's going to cost you 50, 100,000. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have a second surgery and or a third surgery, because surgical procedures don't make anything totally better. They just kind of like, it's just pretty much like trying to maintain you, and that's about all they're going to do. And so, in order for
Absolutely.
you to take care of your health, you have to do that with the
Yes.
right guidance. That's the important thing.
Yes, yes. And I'm really big on that. My husband, he is 83 years old and he's
Really,
only on two pharmaceutical medications.
I'm glad you said that. You know why? Because years ago, when I was first practicing, when I'd meet somebody in their 80s who lived by themselves, drove their car, enjoyed their life, I'd always say, you taking medication? And they'll say, well, yeah, I'm taking a baby aspirin, or I'm taking a little bit of a thing to lower my blood pressure. That's it. That's it. And then you see other people in their 60s, they're on 10 or 12 different medications.
Mm-hmm.
They need support.
Yeah.
And so I saw that immediately. And that was one of the things that confirmed that, drugs and medication are necessary sometimes.
Yes.
Majority of times, they're unnecessary. And if you have to take them temporarily, and you try to get them
Yes.
off the medication as fast as you can.
Yes, because he just recently um had pneumonia. So it put him in the hospital, and he's home now. And it's like they trying to force the high blood pressure medicine. And I'm
No,
like, well, his blood pressure is too low. So no, we're not doing that. So
yeah,
basically what I've been doing is doing his blood pressure 3 or 4 times a day, different times of the day. He
yeah,
doesn't need high blood pressure medicine.
no,
So we're not taking it.
no,
So
because
that,
if he's in the hospital and having lung problems, pneumonia, his blood pressure is going to rise
right,
naturally.
exactly.
That's a natural thing that's going to happen. So I see doctors, I see patients come in, they're 140 over, let's say 90 or 85. I want to put you on blood pressure medication. It's like, no. It's like, why would you do that? Well, he says it's high. It's like, you could have been a little bit stressed that day. You could have ate certain things that could have made it
Yes.
a little bit worse. But like you're doing, get a blood pressure cuff. It's not expensive. And check your blood pressure. You should check it the first thing in the morning just to
Mm-hmm.
see what it is resting. And then through the course of a day. And you'll see sometimes through the course of a day, your blood pressure will go through the roof if you're stressed out.
Yes.
So, and you'll know that, okay, it's a mental emotional thing. It's not, I don't need a chemical to change my mental emotional state unless I want to drug myself into oblivion. So some people do. But what I'm saying to you is that it's unnecessary to do that.
Yes. And that's, I mean, I got them, but they all in a big box in the basement because we don't need them.
No,
And
exactly.
the less medications, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I
You
agree.
know, I mean, 83 years old, and we don't have thousands of dollars of doctor's bills. I must be doing something right.
You guys are doing something, a lot of things right. I can just tell by the way, we're talking, conversing back and forth, that you know a lot more information than the average person out there and realizes like this is the way you have to live.
It is. It is. I grow my own herbs and things like that,
Nice. Nice.
tomatoes and things, and then I put them up for the wintertime and make my little soup. I'm one of them people, homemade cooking. I'm old school.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a whole lot of processed stuff when we was coming up. My mom cooked, and
Yeah.
she
That's
taught
the way
me
we
how to
were
cook.
raised. Same way. Yep.
And so, and even my son, he goes right along with the program. You know what I mean? Whatever I cook, he eats it. And I trained him early on because, of course, kids never like vegetables.
Yeah.
Every
Right.
every meal, he would get one spoon of vegetables every meal, whether he ate it or not. You getting a spoonful, and eventually he started eating them.
Yeah. That's what happens.
That is exactly what happens. Wow. I am really enjoying this, Dr. Cima. This is really, we vibing here.
Yeah. No, no, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So the top 3 killers in our society today, and how can we avoid them?
Well, it's heart disease, which has been number one for decades. Cancer is running a close second now. It's getting worse. And the third cause of death in the United States is what they call iatrogenic disease caused by the physician. So, it's like when the medication or the treatment can kill you, it's kind of time for a change. You want to look at things
Mm,
different. But if you look at the top three killers, which is about 2 million people a year, um, the reality is that the obesity is the one that's basically causing the heart disease, causing the cancer. And then obviously with those two being caused, a lot of people have to go through the medical route, and that would reduce number three too as well. So if we could take the obesity factor in the United States today and educate people on like what they should and shouldn't be eating. Like I talk to people all the time, it's like they don't know they don't know a protein from a carbohydrate, and some do, but then they're really kind of like affected by what exactly is how much protein should I be taking in? How much fat? I'm having a problem with my weight. And I see people that they're starving themselves. And by doing that, they're going to create even more of a weight issue later
Mhm.
on in life. So the goal would be just to educate people really simply. It's not a lot. We do blood chemistry analysis to help people figure out what kind of foods they should be eating, because it's at least that, based on chemistry of their body. And so this way they get a good idea as to, well, this is what we should eat. This is how we should eat. And just by starting to do that, they'll start to lose weight. And the right weight, they'll lose water and fat as opposed to muscle mass. And with the kind of right exercise program, and I'm not talking about exercise program, and I see people doing grueling exercise programs. It's unnecessary. It's not going to make that much of a difference. You won't be able to keep it up for any length of time, the majority of people, because they're going to get hurt. So
Yes.
exercise has to be done, methodically, a combination of stretching and weight training or strengthening of the body. Those are the two things that would be the best things for you. Cardio is not the greatest, but if the people like to do it, that's fine. But, the weight training, the flexibility is the biggest things.
Yes. So if people want to work with you, Dr. Cima, how do they do so?
Well, they can either, contact my office, okay, and the number is 561-775-9111. It's 561-775-9111. Or they can visit me on my website. It's Cima Functional Medicine, one word, cimafunctionalmedicine.com.
And what part of the country are you in?
Oh, excuse me, that would be good. Florida, Palm Beach County.
Okay. I need a doctor like you in Pennsylvania because I am very, very holistic. My doctor prescribed me something. I immediately look up the side effects
Yeah.
because I want to know what is this going to break.
Well, either what we normally do with the nutrition, because we do blood chemistry and a lot of people like the nutrition, that could be done through Zoom.
Oh,
That could be in a different state, and have Zoom conferences set up with the patient, have all the information sent to the patient so they kind of understand what it is that they wanted, what is the need to do and how to do it.
oh,
And
I
then we
was
can
going
kind
to
of,
ask you about that.
yeah,
That's wonderful because
yeah.
I never even heard of a blood test to see what your chemistry is.
Well,
Nobody ever
no,
offered that.
here's the interesting thing. Once I heard that quote, I said, okay, I have to get nutrition into my practice. So I said, well, what can I do to figure out like what people really need? Because everybody's different. So I said, okay, first thing I need to do is find out what kind of foods are right for that patient. And then the second thing was, even though I'm giving them the right foods, are they digesting it? Are they assimilating? Are they metabolizing it? So I have to know how all the organs are working, whether it's the gallbladder, the stomach, the liver, pancreas, adrenals. So I found two doctors that were using blood chemistry analysis. One was doing it for diet, determining what kind of foods are right for you. And then, because if you give people foods that are right for them and they like them, they can eat them. If you tell them
Mm-hmm.
to eat mung beans, they ain't eating them. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
eating. So anyway, and every time I tell people this is the way you should be eating, they go, I love to eat that way. And it's like, why don't you do it? Well, they say the cholesterol, the eggs, and I said, I don't eat eggs anymore, but I really love them. And I'd say, well, they say, well, do you eat chicken? Yeah, I eat chicken. So I said, where do you think the chicken came from? You know what I mean? It's like the eggs. So you don't need eggs, but you can eat chicken? It doesn't make sense. So it kind of gets people to understand, wow, listen to themselves, because they start listening to their bodies, and when they have these mood swings or whatever, or they have these cravings, a lot of times it's basically if they understood what was causing the craving, they'd have it licked really quickly.
Wow. So the blood test. So I'm happy to hear that you can do it remotely
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
how come doctors don't offer that? They send you a nutritionist and they give you a whole bunch of stuff on a piece of paper.
No, it doesn't make sense.
No, it
It
doesn't. It doesn't at all. But and then there's a test to really know what that individual should
yeah,
be eating.
right. This
Wow.
is it.
This is so interesting, Dr. Seema. So let's
You know,
talk about some of your books because people need to definitely, I mean, I've never had this conversation before.
If you go to Cima Functional Medicine, the two books you can get on PDF for the general public. One is, Achieving Unlimited Health, and the other one is How to Eat More, Lose Weight, and Never Diet Again. And those are the two books I wrote for the lay people. And I said you can get them PDF wise, or you can go on Amazon and get them too as well.
Oh,
And
okay.
as far as I wrote a lot of books for the professional, but it would be pretty complicated. So the one book I wrote on, it was really it was blood chemistry analysis and nutraceutical support. That's about 700-800 pages.
Yeah.
So, but then there are different technique books I wrote on cranial work and organ work and how you can treat the body holistically, so that this way you're looking at the body chemically, physically, and mentally, emotionally.
Yes, and that's how we should be looking at it. And I
Absolutely.
try to tell my husband all the time, your mind is connected to your health, your physical health. You cannot
Absolutely.
separate it. It's
Absolutely.
impossible.
Nope.
So if you believe you sick, because he would be like, I'm sick because he got COPD. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if you just keep saying that, that's what you're gonna be. Stop saying that.
That's the whole mental emotional side. When people do get sick, they give up in their mind.
Yes.
Oh no, I really want to get well, but it's like, but you keep on saying like I got a horrible back and I got this and I don't know if I'm going to get well.
Yes, you're so right. And it's taken a while, but he's starting to finally come around at 83. You know how hard that's going to be.
I hear you. I hear you.
But he's starting to come around, and we have a more positive conversations, and I do everything I can. He drinks special tea, I buy raw honey,
Nice.
different things that support the respiratory system.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm doing all I can. I could even do the clinical trials. I'll be reading them. I don't understand everything in her, but I do understand whether it worked or not.
That's the key.
So yes, we have got to do this again. Okay,
Anytime you want, either.
yes, we do. So one more question for you.
And
The true cause of physical pain. What is the true cause of that?
the true cause of physical pain is trauma to the joint.
Okay.
Any joint in the body. And once you traumatize the joint, you're going to affect all the surrounding muscles, all the nerves, all the circulation, all the lymphatic drainage. And so people have, these physical injuries, like it's a knee, doesn't really bother me that much, or my shoulder, it hurts, so I don't do this. And the more you like neglect that, the worse everything gets. So
Mhm.
and I see that all the time. And if I get people and we do a combination of what we call neuromuscular reflex techniques, where we break up all the reflexes and all the muscles surrounding that joint. So if I'm looking at your shoulder joint, I'm not just looking at the left shoulder, I'm looking at the right shoulder, I'm looking at your neck, your upper back, I'm looking at all the muscles that are involved with it. And the muscles that are really involved, you touch them, the patients, if they're in pain. So you know that that's the problems. You work on those particular muscles or those reflex patterns, and the joint goes back into a better alignment. You use proper exercise, and the patients usually respond well
Wow. Without surgery.
without surgery.
Yes, because I've seen some horror stories. I've got a friend
Yeah, yeah.
that they put a metal pole in her neck. And I'm like, why would you let somebody put a metal pole in your neck? That don't even sound right.
No, it's insane. It's
And
insane.
she's been suffering ever since.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
It's terrible. With some of these doctors, do they know that's not going to work? The body is not designed for metal, number
No,
one.
no, you're right.
And you really don't have to be a rocket scientist to
The
figure
figure
that
out.
one out. But they somehow, convince people to do that craziness. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, ever since that's happened, the pole done rusted. Of course, the body is fluid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna rust.
Yeah.
Wow, Dr. Cima, this has been amazing,
You're welcome.
amazing. We have got to do this again.
You let me know, Ida. I'm ready. I'm ready, willing, and able.
Absolutely. So again, how do people connect with you?
Okay.
because they're going to want to know more, and they should know more.
They can call the office 561-775-9111, and they can, if they want to have a consultation with me, we can do that. And if they then want to proceed from there, we can send them all the information on the nutrition and the whole blood chemistry analysis and go from there.
Yes. So thank
And,
you. Go
and they
right.
can also visit my site, cimafunctionalmedicine.com,
Oh, okay.
and they can get the books off of that.
Yes, yes, because I'm definitely interested in the blood test just to know what I really should be eating. And I mean,
I'll send you some information, Ida.
okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I
I
really
will.
appreciate
Definitely.
that. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day
You're welcome.
to do this and enlighten not only me, but also my audience. Truly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you to our guests and you, our valued audience, for stopping by. We truly appreciate you. Many blessings to you and yours.